Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that a single piece of advice has changed the lives of more than 10 million people? What if I told you that the greatest obstacle standing between you and the life you desire is not your circumstances, not your past, not your lack of resources, and not even other people? What if the very thing holding you back is something you carry within yourself every single day? Most people spend their lives looking outward for answers. They search for opportunities, solutions, approval, recognition, and meaning. They believe that happiness exists somewhere in the future. They believe success is hidden behind a certain achievement. They believe confidence will arrive once the world finally validates them. But they are searching in the wrong place. The advice that has transformed millions of lives can be summarized in a simple truth. Until you understand yourself, you will never truly understand your life. Many people spend decades trying to change their circumstances while never examining the forces operating inside their own minds. They wonder why the same patterns repeat. They wonder why the same fears return. They wonder why the same frustrations follow them from one relationship, one job, one goal, and one stage of life to the next. The answer is simple. Wherever you go, you take yourself with you. You cannot escape your inner world. You cannot outrun your unconscious. You cannot hide forever from the parts of yourself you refuse to see. The tragedy of modern life is not that people suffer. The tragedy is that many people suffer without understanding why. They feel lost but cannot explain it. They feel empty despite achievements. They feel disconnected despite being surrounded by people. They feel anxious even when everything appears fine on the surface, and because they do not understand the source of these feelings, they seek solutions in places where solutions cannot be found. They buy more things, they chase more status, they seek more approval, they collect more distractions, yet the feeling remains. Why? Because the problem was never outside. The problem was waiting within. One of the most important discoveries you can make is that there are parts of yourself you do not yet know. Human beings like to imagine they are fully aware of who they are. They are not. Much of what drives human behavior operates beneath conscious awareness. Hidden fears, hidden desires, hidden wounds, hidden beliefs, hidden assumptions. These invisible forces shape decisions every day. A person may believe they are pursuing success when they are actually pursuing approval. A person may believe they are avoiding risk when they are actually avoiding failure. A person may believe they are protecting themselves when they are actually imprisoned by fear. The unconscious mind influences life in profound ways. And when you refuse to become aware of these hidden influences, they gain power over you. That is why self-knowledge is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The person who understands themselves possesses an advantage that no external success can provide. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, they know their fears, they know their motives, they know their values, they know where they stand. And because they know themselves, they are less vulnerable to confusion, manipulation, and self-deception. Many people believe confidence comes from winning. But true confidence comes from self-understanding. Think about that. A person who understands themselves does not need constant reassurance. They do not need everyone to agree with them. They do not need universal approval. Why? Because they know who they are. The greatest source of insecurity is not failure. It is uncertainty about oneself. When you do not know yourself, every criticism becomes a threat. Every rejection becomes devastating. Every setback feels personal. Every disagreement feels like an attack. But when you understand yourself, you develop an inner stability that cannot easily be shaken. You become anchored, you become grounded, you become resilient. This does not mean life becomes easy, it means you become stronger. One of the most dangerous illusions people carry is the belief that avoiding discomfort will create happiness. In reality, avoiding discomfort often creates suffering. Growth requires confrontation. Transformation requires honesty. Maturity requires courage. There are truths about yourself that may be difficult to face. You may discover fears you have been denying. You may discover resentment you have been carrying. You may discover habits that sabotage your progress. You may discover wounds that never properly healed. Yet these discoveries are not defeats. They are victories. Because what is brought into awareness can be transformed. What remains hidden controls you. Imagine entering a dark room. As long as the room remains dark, you cannot see what is there. You stumble. You guess. You fear. But the moment you turn on the light, everything changes. The objects remain the same. The room remains the same. But now you can see. Awareness is the light. Self-knowledge is the light. Consciousness is the light. And once you see clearly, you gain the power to act intelligently. One of the reasons people struggle with change is because they underestimate the influence of their habits. A habit is not merely a behavior. A habit is a psychological pathway. The more often you walk that pathway, the easier it becomes to travel again. Negative thinking becomes a habit. Self-doubt becomes a habit. Procrastination becomes a habit. Fear becomes a habit. But courage can become a habit as well. Discipline can become a habit. Confidence can become a habit. Growth can become a habit. The question is not whether habits shape your life. The question is which habits are shaping it. Every day you are becoming someone. You are either moving toward greater awareness or deeper unconsciousness. You are either growing stronger or remaining stagnant. You are either building yourself or neglecting yourself. Life is constantly shaping you. The real question is whether you are participating consciously in that process. Many people wait for motivation before taking action. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel inspired. They wait for certainty. But life does not reward endless waiting. Life rewards engagement. Action creates clarity. Action creates confidence. Action creates momentum. You discover who you are not by thinking endlessly about life, but by participating in it. Every challenge teaches you something. Every failure reveals something. Every success uncovers something. Life itself becomes a teacher, but only for those willing to learn. One of the greatest mistakes people make is defining themselves by their past. They say, "This is who I have always been. This is how I have always acted. This is what happened to me. This is my story." Yet human beings are not fixed. You are not a finished product. You are a living process. The person you were 5 years ago is not the person you are today. The person you are today is not the person you can become tomorrow. Growth is possible. Transformation is possible. Renewal is possible. But only if you stop worshipping the limitations of your past. The past may explain you. It does not have to define you. One of the most powerful moments in life occurs when a person realizes they are not trapped by their history. That realization changes everything. Because once you understand that your future is not determined by your past, you begin to see possibilities where you once saw barriers. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to see potential where you once saw limitations. And that shift changes the trajectory of your entire life. Another important truth is that meaning matters more than comfort. Many people pursue comfort above all else. They want life to be easy. They want life to be predictable. They want life to be free from struggle. But a life devoted solely to comfort becomes empty. Human beings need purpose. Human beings need meaning. Human beings need something worth striving for. The deepest fulfillment does not come from avoiding challenges. It comes from embracing challenges that matter. A meaningful struggle is infinitely more satisfying than meaningless comfort. When people lose meaning, they often lose direction. When they lose direction, they lose hope. And when they lose hope, they lose energy. That is why discovering your purpose is not merely an inspirational exercise. It is a psychological necessity. Purpose gives suffering context. Purpose gives effort value. Purpose gives life direction. Without purpose, people drift. With purpose, they endure. There is also a profound lesson hidden inside fear. Most people view fear as an enemy. They spend enormous amounts of energy trying to eliminate it. But fear often contains valuable information. Fear points toward areas of growth. Fear identifies boundaries that need exploration. Fear reveals opportunities for expansion. Think about the moments that transformed your life. Were they comfortable? Probably not. Were they easy? Probably not. Growth rarely feels safe. Growth often feels uncertain. Growth often feels uncomfortable. Yet those moments of discomfort frequently become the turning points that define your future. The doorway to a larger life often stands behind the wall of fear. And this is why courage matters. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite fear. Anyone can act when there is no risk. Anyone can act when there is certainty. But growth belongs to those willing to act when outcomes remain unknown. Another truth that impacts millions of lives is the importance of accepting your own complexity. Human beings are not simple. You contain contradictions. You contain strengths and weaknesses. You contain wisdom and ignorance. You contain courage and fear. You contain generosity and selfishness. You contain light and shadow. The mature person does not deny these realities. The mature person integrates them. They recognize that perfection is impossible. They recognize that wholeness is more valuable than perfection. A person who constantly pretends to be flawless becomes fragile. A person who accepts their humanity becomes strong. Because they no longer waste energy hiding from themselves, they become authentic. And authenticity is powerful. People are drawn to authenticity because authenticity is rare. In a world full of masks, authenticity stands out. In a world full of performance, authenticity feels refreshing. In a world full of superficiality, authenticity creates connection. The strongest relationships are built upon authenticity. The strongest leaders operate with authenticity. The strongest individuals embrace authenticity. Not because it is easy, but because it is real. One of the greatest transformations occurs when a person stops living according to external expectations and begins living according to internal truth. For many people, this realization arrives late. They spend years trying to satisfy everyone else. Years trying to fit in. Years trying to meet standards they never chose. Years trying to become versions of themselves designed by others. Then one day they ask a powerful question. What do I truly want? Not what society wants. Not what others expect. Not what tradition demands. What do I genuinely desire? That question changes lives. Because it shifts authority from the outside world to the inner world. And true freedom begins at that moment. The path of self-discovery is not a destination. It is a lifelong journey. You do not arrive at complete understanding. You continue learning. You continue evolving. You continue discovering. Every stage of life reveals new lessons. Every challenge reveals new dimensions. Every experience deepens awareness. The goal is not perfection. The goal is consciousness. The goal is growth. The goal is becoming more fully yourself. Imagine what would happen if every person committed to understanding themselves more deeply. Imagine how many conflicts would disappear. Imagine how many destructive patterns would end. Imagine how many relationships would improve. Imagine how many dreams would be pursued. Imagine how much unnecessary suffering would be reduced. The world changes when individuals change, and individuals change when they become aware. That is why the advice that has impacted millions remains timeless. Know yourself, study yourself, observe yourself, question yourself, understand yourself. Because everything begins there. Your relationships, your confidence, your purpose, your leadership, your success, your fulfillment. Everything is connected to the quality of your self-awareness. If you wish to change your life, begin by examining your mind. If you wish to transform your future, begin by understanding your present. If you wish to become powerful, begin by becoming conscious. The answers you seek may not be hidden in distant places. They may already exist within you. Waiting. Waiting to be discovered. Waiting to be understood. Waiting to be brought into the light. Ladies and gentlemen, the advice that transformed millions is not complicated, yet it is profound. Know yourself. Face yourself. Understand yourself. For the person who conquers the world may achieve greatness, but the person who understands themselves achieves wisdom. And wisdom is the foundation upon which a meaningful life is built. Thank you.